Go.
Welcome to Get Tied On. I'm Tom Amello. This is Michael Kipnis, and we are brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com. This is our post-Travers show. In this segment, and away they go, we'll talk about the Travers, talk about some trainers, talk a little bit about the track, and share some observations that we've made on the impact that HISA appears to be having on not only Saratoga, but the game in general. At the quarter pole, we've got a wagering segment for you, and we've got a surprise winner of the Low Roller Championship Thursday at Saratoga. We'll share that with you. We're going to talk about the betting strategy that was applied during both the Personal Ensign and the Travers to get some tickets. We've got a horse to watch. We'll talk about that. And we've got guest interviews. Where's
Patti Miller.
Patti Miller,
great bloodstock agent. Really sharp bloodstock agent.
And during the Gallop Out, our commentary section, certainly we'll talk about horse safety, the events of Travers. You know, I started saying, hello, Travers. This is the second breakdown. You're not going to deny that it happened. We're not going to deny the tragic nature of it and the impact it had on the crowd that day and everybody who was watching. And now we have to see going forward what will be.
Right. And yeah, I happened to, my seat at the track is at the 16th pole. That was dead on when New York Thunder went down. There was a hush to the crowd. There was tears. A lot of people left the track. Yes. After that, and
a lot of people are questioning their ability to stay in the game. Honestly, sincerely.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in the last segment. You know, my thoughts on the track that day.
Okay.
But
well, let's talk about the Travers. You know, it was historic in that you had 3 Triple Crown winners showing up. It was a good field. There was a lot of hype about Forte, the blinkers, the Jim Dandy debacle, if you will. Arcangelo working up to the race. Mays getting what could be determined either a good or an okay prep in the Haskell. Tappet Trice getting blinkers. There were a lot of stories in this race. And then Disarm getting blinkers as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a great accomplishment by Arcangelo and a great training job by Jenna Antonucci to get that horse to run that way, going 1.25 miles off a layoff.
You know, there's a lot of speculation about training up to the race. You know, we've talked about this a couple of times on this program. She logged some miles and works in that horse. Steady, at 5 furlongs every 8 days, 7 days, 5 furlongs, 5 furlongs, 5 furlongs. All the clockers said he just looked fantastic. He was happy. And, you know, winning off a layoff sometimes is you can look at it suspect, but she certainly got the job done.
That was an outstanding performance, and as good as that performance was as bad as Forte's performance. Because once, you know, he's a one-paced horse anyway, but once he turned for home, you could see he was empty. I don't know if it was the track surface. It was not sealed for that race, but it was cuppy. Could it have been that his feet, something happened to his feet because he had foot injury just prior to the Derby. But whatever happened, Forte became unglued in that stretch run, and I wouldn't be surprised it's the last time we see Forte run.
And we both thought he was vulnerable and not certainly not a mortal lock at whatever the price.
No, I mean, basically, as we'll talk about in the betting strategy that in the betting section of our YouTube show, you know, I wasn't going to pick him on top, and neither were you.
No.
Arcangelo was the now horse, training great. You know, I had my doubts about Mage. Reproduce. He ran okay in the Haskell, but I just didn't feel it with him. There were a few horses like Disarm that we thought could pop up with a good race, adding the blinkers. There was some frauds in the race, like National Treasure. Once he rated in the race, he was done. Tappet Trice is an underachiever. You know, I thought we could even beat him for third, but he got third. But in the wager, you know, we did use him in the all button. You know, it was just, it was a field with a lot of question marks, including Arcangelo.
Right.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're taking 5-2 on a horse that, you know, can she get this horse to run that race, you know, off a layoff?
Absolutely.
And Arcangelo ran really well. I mean, he sat a perfect trip. He's a push-button horse. He's got a lot of quality. And it just goes to show you don't have to spend millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a good horse. This horse cost $35,000. My hat's off to the connections.
Yep.
Just a great feel-good story in a game at this point that we need a feel-good story.
Yes. So let's talk about a couple of trainers, and then we'll talk about the Heisa. Norm Cassie is just phenomenal.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And I don't mean ridiculous in any negative way.
7 winners out of 10, and I mean, you know, but you know, this is a really good horseman that worked under his father, Mark Cassie, and he's a star on the rise. He's a star now.
Yeah. Linda Rice got a few more wins, and we're in the final week now, and really the condition book in the final week favors Linda Rice.
Linda Rice is 2 down, and I met with her in the paddock when we had a horse Works For Me that ran in the funny side, and I went over to Linda and had a discussion, and I said, I need some winners this week, so drop those horses. Yeah. Get the job done for me, get the job done for you. I would take great pleasure if you beat Chad Brown, because she's orchestrated a great claiming game this meet at Saratoga.
Sunday was New York Bred Day here in New York. Christophe Clement had a good day. He got 2 stakes winners with nice-looking horses.
Yeah, especially that horse that won the turf race. He certainly got a great pace set up, and he loved to return to 2 turns. I forgot the name of that horse, but he ran, I think he is, what was his name? New Guinea.
Yeah.
And that was in the
finished like a
Yaddo, in the Yaddo.
Yaddo.
He just blew away the field. He was loaded. I have to say that as good a day as Clement had, Manny Franco had a better day.
Yes.
He won 4 races. He's got 30 now on the season. That is a rider that he didn't start the meet off well.
No.
And he has really come alive.
We'd be remiss, you know, we can talk about the perennially hot New York claiming trainers who are doing significantly less well thus far this meet, but Mercantanci, I can't get the name. Cantamarci. He's having a great meet, and he's spotting his horse well, and they're running well.
They are, and there's several trainers, and we don't want to mention names. You can just go to the stats and look for yourself. But I think this has, whether it's the condition book or Heisa rules, that have put a lid on some of the stuff that they're trying to correct. But there's certain trainers here that have not won a race or have won 1 race out of many starters, and they have greatly underachieved, and there's quite a few of those.
Right.
Just go down your racing form and you'll see them.
Yeah.
I don't have to mention their names.
No. 2 of them are 1 for 44, and that's not their percentage.
No, and one of them could go back to Belmont and won very few there, and that was a 20+% trainer. Mm. So I don't know what happened to them. They didn't forget to train, but you know, Heisa has made themselves.
Maybe there's a level of concern now that we didn't have before. Anyhow, last thing in this segment, Mike, you want to talk about vet scratches and field sizes. The reality now and the reality for the future.
Well, we've had almost 60 races taken off the turf this year. It's the most ever, okay? That's 60 races, full field, big fields, great betting opportunities. You combine that with a lot of scratches and then vet scratches on top of that, And what we had this meet is too many small fields and too many races that were really not bettable situations. We need big fields. We need these competitive races to get our prices. And that's why favorites have won more than their normal share, because they're going to win in short fields.
Favorite can't get in trouble.
Yeah, so, weather had a lot to do, weather had everything to do with this meet, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, water always wins, and we've had plenty of water. That's going to bring us to the end of this segment. It's brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com. We'll be back at the quarter pole.
Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now.
We're back, and we're at the quarter pole. Tom Amello, Michael Kipnis, brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com. And if you notice, there's been a change of costume. The mentalist here is wearing the Saratoga Low Rollers Championship jersey. But that's not the whole story. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, the real story, so here at Saratoga on Thursday and Sundays, they offer a $40 buy-in. You have to bet $2 across the board on 5 races.
Yep.
Okay, and the winner gets to wear this shirt, which is a prestigious honor. Okay, so I did not win this shirt. My good friend Cousin Larry won it. I assisted in the victory. Now, Cousin Larry is probably the most successful businessman that I've ever met in my life, right? He's had one of the most successful hedge funds, owns a hotel in Bermuda, owns a farm in Kentucky, but nothing mattered to him than to win this t-shirt. Every Thursday and Sunday for 2 years, Cousin Larry went in to try to win this shirt. It meant everything to him. No money could make up for the experience of this. So I help him with a few of you got to play prices. You have no shot. So I had some prices picked underneath, in my picks, and he was in the game going into his last play. He was within about $8 of the top who was winning.
Yeah.
Comes to the last race and he says, I got to take a stab. Now, it's not a horse that I picked. He picks Evie's Jets at, what was it, 30 to 1? Some ridiculous price. Comes up the rail and gets the money. And now Cousin Larry is worried. Does somebody else have Evie's Jet somewhere in this pack that could beat him? It turns out that one other person had the same horses in all 5 bets. He can't win it by himself. So I say to Cousin Larry, because you're tied, do you get half a shirt? Do you get just the sleeve? And the other guy gets the other sleeve? So it turns out he got the shirt. They bring it out of this special place, of which they've got hundreds of shirts. It should only be
one guy.
like enough shirts for the meet, right?
That's right.
So they obviously got to deal other shirts for the next 10 years because they're loaded with shirts. He gets the shirt. The other guy gets the shirt. They split. It's a $1,000 prize. They split $500. It wasn't even the money that Cousin Larry wanted.
It was the shirt.
And I am wearing the shirt in honor of assisting him in one of the greatest achievements of his life.
And it was so nice of Cousin Larry to permit you to permit you to participate in and to assist him in this?
He guarded this shirt since the day he got it. I have to return it in pristine fashion.
You're
Okay,
gonna have to wash it.
But he did say I could frame it and put it next to my Kobe Bryant signed championship jersey.
Enough. Okay. All right. So that's enough of that. Now we're going to talk wagering strategy. And Michael, you mentioned both two races that you constructed bets for based on opinion, the Personal Ensign and the Travers. So go. How about it?
Well, we talk about our shitty plays, and you've got one on Sunday that you have to talk about because I talked about my screw up in the Amsterdam or whatever that.
My time will come.
Your time will come to wear the dunce cap, but I constructed a couple really good wagering strategies on Friday and Saturday. The first one was the Personal Ensign. I really loved Idiomatic.
Yeah.
Okay, lone speed on a speed favoring track. The horse was 4-1. Nest was odds on, was going to be over bet. Brad Cox. So I constructed a really good wager, putting a win bet on Idiomatic, and I played a trifecta. Now I respected Nest, but it's really the play that matters, the ticket. So I took a 1-5 Idiomatic and Nest over 4 horses, and we nailed the trifecta, and that paid off very generous.
And the key to that was Secret Oath running very well.
Right. We both thought that Secret Oath was going to improve, going back 2 turns. He was training well. If we can get Nest out of that second hole, we were going to have a very generous payoff.
Yep.
So that was Friday. On Saturday, the only opinion you could have, look, we thought Forte could win.
Right.
If he improved off his Jim Dandy, he was dangerous. He's never run a clinker. He's a game horse, but we weren't picking him on top. We were going to go to Arcangelo, but who wants Arcangelo at 5-2? That wasn't even great value at 5-2. So we constructed a wager, a trifecta ticket, taking those 2 over 4 horses, of which one of them was the one we liked from Asmussen.
Right.
What was
Disarm.
the name? Disarm. Overall. So Tapit Trice landed. So that trifecta for 50 cents was
$140.
$140. So that was a nice score. That ticket for, if you played it, I gave it for $1.
$40 ticket got you
a $30 ticket. $30 ticket got you
$30.
$280. So that was a really good construction of a ticket, playing off 2 of the favorites, with the better one winning, but landing a nice price horse, Disarm, in the second hole, overall in the third hole.
And, Disarm coming second provided a good exacta, but Disarm coming second made the trip.
Made the trifecta, and that was the play that we wanted.
Right.
Now, those were 2 good plays. Now it's your turn to tell the public the buffoonery of your Sunday late pick 3.
See? The mentalist wants me to explain my buffoonery.
Yeah, the buffoonery.
Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the simple deal. I've said on this show many times, I'm primarily a win and exacta player. I don't bet many picks. Actually, most of the time that I do bet picks, it's during the Saratoga meet where I'm required to make a pick in every race, and most of the time I'm making just a short dollar pick in case I get lucky and have 3, 4, or 5 in a row. I want to have the ticket, okay? So anyhow, on the Sunday card, I made a very small pick 5 with most of my tops and was out of the pick 5 early. And then I made a pick 4 with most of my tops and was out in that next leg when New Guinea won. So now I'm down to the late pick 3, and I have 2 opinions. I really like Kerry. We both like Kerry in that race.
5-1.
5-1. So I make my win bet. I make my exacta bet. I get the win on Kerry, but we lose the exactas. Okay. So I bet my second opinion on the card is I like the Clement horse Dark Passages in the 10th race. So I made doubles, Kerry into Dark Passage. Just a cold single double. Dark Passage wins, so I managed to cash the double. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm pretty good about that now that Dark Passage wins. I also made a pick 3 play.
So here's the buffoonery.
Here's the buffoonery, okay? Now you have to understand that I don't make too many of these plays.
You made a lot. Yeah, you buy tickets. Don't kid yourselves, people. The guy buys tickets by the pound. He's at the machine. I'm witnessing him at the machine.
Well, no, those were the pick 4 tickets that went south. So I make $1 pick 3, 8 with
carry a 5-to-1 shot.
Singling Dark Passage, and there are only 6 horses in the 11th race. And I had 5 of the 6 on my sheet. But I only used the top 3.
Right, which was $3.
Which was $3.
Right.
So I make a $3 investment, and when Michael asked me about this, I said, you know, it never even crossed my mind to go all or to go beyond the top 3. So I made a simple $3 bet that had I gone for an extra $2 or $3 would have returned 3 1/4. So here's the deal. Well, I'll let him finalize it in a moment. The bottom line is that I don't think like a gambler often enough. Even with 40 years of pounding money through the windows, I play like sometimes I play like a buffoon, and sometimes I play properly. So this is just an example of how we get in our own way when we lose focus. It's a focus thing. You're right. Go ahead.
So I'm in the treehouse with you, right? As you're pounding the windows, right? You're at the betting machine. No matter where I turn, when I turn, you're at the machine. So I find a track fact sheet thrown on the floor. This is the truth. Yeah. I'm playing the pick 4, and I want to know your opinion, right, in the last race that's off the turf, because I wanted, I respect you.
I appreciate
that.
Yeah.
So I open the sheet that's wrinkled, I smooth it out, and I see that one of your horses is the Leah Giamardi 20-to-1 shot.
Yep.
I say, let me look closer at this. Switching to the dirt for the first time, dirt pedigree, why not?
Why not?
Throw him in. So, it wasn't, I didn't pick the horse, but out of respect for the crumpled sheet, I wanted to use the horse. So now I get home, right, and I call you to congratulate you because I know you singled just 2 horses and it was $3. Little did I know, if you just asked me, Wiz, do you have an extra couple dollars? I would have given you. It didn't even come to that.
It wasn't that at all.
Wasn't even, so when he told me that he didn't have it, and it was on his sheet in an off the turf race, where it all was $6.
Are you going to let me up yet for air?
You're up. Okay, you're up. What's the?
No, the story is that you got.
What was the final payoff? The reason I called you.
Oh no, the bottom line is the final payoff was 3 1/4, which I could have had for nothing.
Right.
And you used it, and he caught the pick 4 for 4K.
Right.
For 4K.
4,500.
That's right.
Right.
So would you at least pay me $5 for my sheet?
No, because I found it on the floor. If it was handed to me, I would have done. But the thing is that, we share in misery, and I was hoping to share in victory, enjoy.
Yeah.
And thanks to you, it's not that you led me to the horse.
Of course
you
not.
led me to think about the horse because you had it on the sheet.
That's right.
So I have to buy your sheet tomorrow. Through the week, I have to buy it.
I want a percentage. I deserve a percentage. All right, that's the end of this wagering segment.
Horse to watch coming up.
Oh, Horse to Watch coming up. Brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com.
Got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear.
Welcome back. You're tied on. stay, get tied on. Tom Amello, Michael Kipnis. Let's talk about a horse to watch, and the horse to watch is Disarm.
Disarm in the Travers, and if Disarm runs back, make sure you don't mess up the big three. King Disarm the next time he runs.
There you go.
I had my binoculars squarely on him down the stretch, actually from the quarter pole. They were adding blinkers. Asmussen added blinkers. I've always liked this horse. So have you.
Yes.
We've chased him. We've watched him closely. He always runs well.
Our friend Kerry Thomas and Pete Denk, the herd dynamic guys, they liked him an awful lot and said that they really felt that he just needed to mature a little more. And the blinkers helped. But he's a fighter. This is a fighter.
If you watch all his races, we've watched him closely. He's always in there, and he just seems to lose his focus.
Right.
He's a perfect example of a horse that just, for some reason, when the chips are down and the money's on the line, he just can't kick it in. Well, he kicked it in with blinkers on this time.
Yeah.
He was on the rail. He made several small moves in the running, if you watch the running from start to finish. But once he was, like from the 8th pole to the finish, he was moving.
Right.
I mean, if they ran that race another 16th of a mile, he was going to probably win the race. And he was more focused. I really liked his stride. And this is a horse to watch next time out.
Yeah, and he's well bred. He's son of Curlin. There's a solid pedigree there. So the expectation is there. Now he's just got to run to his potential.
I think next time he gets the money, Asmussen will find a right spot for him, and a confidence-building win will do the trick.
Okay, so that'll bring us to the end of this segment. And when we come back, it's gallop out time and commentary. Stay with us.
You want the dribble crowd?
Welcome back to the Down the Stretch portion of our show, Get Tied On. This is the interview section of the show, and it's my pleasure to introduce Patti Miller, who is not only a great Bloodstock agent, but a very dear friend. And welcome to the show, Pattie.
Oh, this is great.
You know, I've wanted you to come on here. You know, the show that I'm doing this summer is, I want to have a representation of every part of the industry. You know, not just trainers, not just jockeys, not everything. I even had a great interview yesterday with a valet that has been part of the track for Harry the Valet, been part of the track since the 80s.
Wow.
Nobody knows really what a valet does, you know, from start to finish. You do.
When I was training, I would have said they lost colors, but that wouldn't be fair.
No. But now I wanted to have a great Bloodstock agent. And in a field, and tell me if I'm wrong or right about this, it's been dominated by males, right? I mean, now you have Jane Lyons, you have yourself, you know, maybe a sprinkling of other women, but mostly men, right?
It's gotten, there are many more women now. There's a very good agent named American Pharoah. She's an Irish girl who really does a very good job. It's becoming more open to women, but it's still it's a hard business. It's not for the faint of heart.
Well, I know certainly how hard you work, but you know, what made you decide, you know, you have an experience in different aspects of the game. You were an amateur rider, right?
Yes, yep, steeplechase.
Steeplechase rider for how long?
Oh, too long. I retired on a win. My last ride was a win, I decided. And I'm really not that old, 50.
But so you were, you know, and you've been tell the viewers about your career as a trainer.
Well, was the most interesting 11 years of my life. But that became to me, what I learned in that very quickly is that a trainer is only as good as the stock he trains. It's like a coach. If you don't have the players, you don't have the team. And so it became very apparent to me that getting the horses that could run even on the lowest level, I was at the lowest level for, you know.
What circuit?
I was at Delaware Park. I was actually, we had a barn at Fair Hill, and I dominated Delaware Park. because
Dominated meaning like you were like leading
I
train.
was one of the leading trainers consistently because I was getting originally, and then it got harder because originally I was getting the horses that we purchased using the cardio and using the gait analysis, and they could all run at some level, and all you had to do was get them sound, get them feeling well about themselves, and you could send them out there and they'd win at a level. So, and I was allowed to run them at that level. So I won a lot of races, but it still is a very difficult job, even at that level. You really have to know a lot about horses, and you have to deal with racing secretaries. You have to deal with jockeys, agents, and one of the things I remember is in Laurel, in Maryland, they used to put on the program, the women trainers had their whole name, so it was Catherine Voss, and the men were just their first initial. And I was having trouble getting the better riders, and I just thought, well, maybe maybe they're just a tad misogynist. So I insisted that they put me in the program as P. Miller, and a lot of people in Maryland still call me P. Miller because it was a bit of a conflict. And I played my trump card because my business partner, Jeff Seder, who's a brilliant guy, but he's also a well-trained lawyer, and I said, well, he will be calling you. My lawyer will be calling you. Well, of course, the next day I'm in the thing as P. Miller. Later that week, I had a horse that I really thought would run well, and I couldn't get a rider for it. And the leading rider's jock's agent calls, and I answer the phone, and he goes, "Hey, sweetie, we see that your boss has this horse in." And I said, "Oh yeah." And he said, "Well, we'd like to ride it." I said, "Really? Can you get him to call me?" I said, "Well, I just have to check in the shed row to see if that's possible." So I put the phone down, I walk out in the shed row, I look at a leg, I come back in, I said, "We'd love to ride it." I love to have him ride it. Well, it was so funny, the horse won and everything. And that jock's agent, it took him about 6 months to pick up I wasn't, I was P. Miller.
P. Miller, right. Philip Miller.
Yes, yeah, whatever it was, as long as it wasn't a woman. That's all.
So now you trained for 11 years. You made a transition.
Yes.
You left the training game, and you became a bloodstock agent.
That was what at first I thought was, at that point we had always measured hearts in horses. We imaged them with ultrasound and measure the hearts. And at that point I was convincing Jeff that it really was important that we have the right horse. And but I first went out there just to imaging hearts and selling the information. And as to the heart size and efficiency, it was kind of like an engine, looking at an engine. And in those travels, I ran into John Kimmel. And John Kimmel, so I thought it was interesting. I thought, gee.
And he's a vet. He's a vet
He's
by
a vet,
trade.
yes, and very smart. John is just, I think, really one of the most underrated trainers out there. He brilliant guy, and he really knows the game, and he really knows veterinary medicine. So I think, and he loved horses. So anyhow, so we teamed up for about 5 years, I think it was, and we had some nice horses. The first horse we bought was with, Starview Farms. His name was Successful Appeal. And then we had a bunch of horses, and the most infamous one of them all I missed was Thunder Gulch. And Thunder Gulch, the first time I went to measure his heart, he was a beautiful horse. I mean, he wasn't real big, but he was, and that was the cue. He wasn't real big. And he's like 15.2, and maybe 3. But the heart size measurements were really good, but not great, I thought. And I bounced it off Jeff, and it turned out, it was a big heart for him. So, anyhow, the horse obviously had a lot of ability, and John sold him to one of Demi O'Byrne's clients, and the rest is history. But John called me when he was about to sell him, and oh gosh, he says, well, Patty, what do you think? And at that point, we had other horses in the barn, stakes horses, fillies, that were doing great and could toy with Thunder Gulch in the morning because he was not a good workhorse. And he said, what do you think? And it was a lot of money. And I said, and he belonged to a guy who was Herbie. I know him as Herbie. He had a bagel shop in New York.
Right.
And I
said, I know those guys. Because they used to hang out at Yonkers Raceway.
They're
and
great
I remember
guys.
I remember all of them. Mikey Chang was one of the guys, and the bagel. They called them the Bagel Boys.
Yeah.
They had the horse.
They had
I have
but
the
I'll
winner's
tell you what
circle
I said.
picture.
This is what I said, though. He says, well, what do you think, Patty? And I said, geez, John, that's a lot of bagels. The next thing I will never say in my life ever again, as long as I live, I said, what do you think he's going to do? Win the Kentucky Derby? Oh, my God.
So look, they gave me, I'm friends with them, okay?
Oh, wow.
I hung out with them at Yonkers Raceway playing simulcast New York racing for every Saturday,
Oh,
okay?
wow.
Me, my father's cronies, and the Bagel Boys. I have the winner's circle picture the day it broke its maiden with John Velasquez, John
Wow.
Kimmel, the trainer.
Yes.
I knew they sold the horse
For a lot
to
of
Wayne
money.
Lucas, trained the horse for $300. It wasn't. I mean, I don't know what they bought it for, but they ended up selling it for like $350.
Yeah, I think they paid $50,000 or $60,000.
Yeah,
I don't. It wasn't-
$350,000, and
Yeah,
now
it was a lot of bagels.
and a lot of bagels, and it went on to win the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
But what I want the viewers to know is that Pattie, it's a team, EQB Equine, right?
gosh,
the name,
yes.
That's the name of your company.
Yes.
Now, these two people, Patti Miller and Jeff Seder, are no joke in this industry. Tell the viewers approximately how many graded stakes winners that you have bought for clients.
A lot.
What?
I don't know. We
Is
tried
the number?
to listen-
It's over 200, isn't it?
It's a lot.
A lot.
A lot. I was telling you how I wiped
And
my...
she's being humble, okay?
And we were lucky to have owners that would buy the horses, and they had good trainers. And the other thing is, you have to realize the trainer is such an integral part. Zayat we did exceptionally well for, but he had incredible trainers. Bill Mott, he had Steve Asmussen, it just goes on. And so then that horse got the best possible chance. Now, does that mean there are little trainers that aren't that good? No. What they need though is the horse.
And that starts with you, okay?
Yes.
You have to start with something to work with.
Yes, if they don't.
So I mean, you're very humble because I know you're going to tell the viewers what goes into picking these horses in layman's terms.
Yes.
But it's tremendous amount of work. And the thing that's amazing about EQB, and I've been part of the ride as friends, and you've bought a horse for me that I've named Walk With Me that will run,
yes.
hopefully run soon. But is that you don't pay a lot of money for horses. I mean, if you look at the range of price that you actually pay, and tell me if I'm right about this, it would be in the low end around 40, approximately.
No, I would say we're probably a little higher than that. However, what's important here is to understand a horse has no idea how much you pay for it. It has no concept of money. And there's a horse out there running right now, New York bred, Allure of Money, that is running for a very nice woman from Panama. She's great. And she's always been great about, oh, you really like the horse, fine. And she didn't, she paid under $7,500 for the horse. And he just won $150,000 stake. Imagine. Isn't that exciting?
But you do that all the time, and you might pay $150,000, $200,000 for a horse, but I don't even recall you paying $500,000.
We have.
Have you?
And they've done well. And sometimes you have to realize that there's several layers of this. Obviously, you're looking for the physical, and that horse, we topped the sale last night, yesterday with the New York bred sale.
That you pinhooked, that you bought as a
We bought as
weanling.
a weanling. Now, he was an expensive weanling. He was a $175,000 weanling. If Mr. Ramsey hadn't believed in us, Who knows? So he was willing to put up the money and then pinhook $175,000 a year weanling. And we come to Saratoga, and with the help of John Secura and Hillendale Farm, he sells for $380,000. That's a home run.
Right. Now, I want the viewers to know, I mean, you are such a hard worker. You're such a hard worker. Tell me exactly the procedure when you go to a sale, like how you prepare for the sale and what you do to make the determination you're going after that horse.
Well, I'm going to preface this with a thing my father used to tell me, and it makes it a lot easier. Do something you love and never work a day in your life. So, this whole thing fascinates me. What Jeff has invented fascinates me. And to use it together to get it going. But in order to do that, you have to start with a catalog, and you have to look at whether I saw the horse as a weanling. Maybe
Weanling meaning, for the public?
For a horse that's under a year of age.
Okay.
And maybe just weaned, probably. They sell them in November and January and February.
And that's the horse you pinhook that sold at Saratoga, a weanling, which is not even a year.
It's the equivalent to walking into a second grade class and picking out Allen Iverson.
Okay. Good analogy. Great analogy. Okay.
So anyhow, so the first thing you do is research the catalog and see, have we seen this horse before? That's important to me because when I see them physically, I want to see if they're going forward, going backwards, every little bit.
Because you take notes on prior sales.
Yes, you should see my catalogs. They're just...
it's ridiculous.
We have this tremendous girl in the office, again, who knows a lot about horses. Her name's Karen. And she helps me research those catalogs. And I mean, so when I get there, I already know a lot about some of the horses. And then, I just move forward. And it's very important that you just try and see and not make your mind up too quickly about a horse. That's the other thing. A lot of people just pull them out. And if a horse's head isn't directly in front of them when they're walking to you, they will appear to wing and do all sorts of terrible things.
What does wing mean? Wing
means that their limb comes out, and it's kind of like the crew team from Harvard.
Okay.
So, and those kinds of things. And you just have to be patient. And, a good horse, most of them have good bone. Some of them don't. All of them have a certain personality trait of being a little bit competitive. I do a walking thing with them, and I'm looking for them to look at me. All of them are, what's the same about them, if you line up 10 fabulous horses that I think are the best, the bee's knees, as they say, then you can go through with the cardio, and you can find out that there are 4 or 5 that are really special.
Okay, so you have it down to your list.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not doing cardio on every horse.
No.
You're doing it on your short list.
Yes.
So now you have a machine, right?
Yes.
That gets, I know Jeff's son carries the machine at Saratoga.
The machine was one of the original machines we used. And anyone who's been an ultrasound tech knows you become in love with your machine. And this one was probably in Vietnam and was thrown out of helicopters, okay? This thing I can use it, I can get to exactly where I want. I'm looking for certain landmarks as I look internally in the heart. And I can get to those landmarks like that. I know exactly how the distortion from one depth to another in that machine. And so, in fact, we have a new fangled one that I'm really excited about. This I'll be able to just hold in my hand. And I asked the guy to look at this machine. He says, well, they can fix that. I don't care. I am used to that level of distortion.
The horse is in the stall, right?
Horse is in the stall.
Do you do the cardio out of the stall?
No,
do you go in the stall?
You
stall.
Pull the machine into the stall, and it's really important. I have tremendous holders. That's the guy holding the horse. The one that Javier Del Rio helps me in Kentucky, and he worked for WinStar and worked in the Stallion Barn, and he worked for. He's just a tremendous person, and he loves horses. And that's a really important thing, because horses know right away when you walk into that stall, he doesn't like me.
Right.
And they know that, and that adds a level of nervousness. And you have to get the heart rate down to below 40 beats per minute in order to do the exam.
And what if a horse doesn't respond? Like, how does a horse, let's say it's 80 beats, 70 beats, it's nervous, there's people in the stall.
Well, you
they're
get
jittery.
the people that are jittery out of the stall.
And so you calm them down,
Yeah,
and then
and the heart's a sympathetic muscle, so if someone is just petting it slowly or talking to it
it'll
slowly,
slow down.
it'll slow the heart down for the most part. I mean, there's always the anomaly.
So now your your short list becomes even shorter, because you're going to
Yeah.
eliminate some because you don't like the way
Exactly.
the heart is. So now
Yes.
you have your list. Say half of them don't make it, right? It's
Yes.
5 now.
Yes.
So hypothetically,
Hypothetically,
what's
a
the
little
next
less.
step?
The next step then is to start looking at hire a veterinarian to look at them. And we use the best veterinarians in the world. And literally, a fellow named Scott Hay from Taglin, he's a racetrack vet in Florida. He was head of the AAUP. He's brilliant. Not always, he gets a little crabby sometimes because I'm always coming in late with my list. And, but it's hard. What you have to understand, the majority of the problem with my getting to my list is I have to get through enough horses. I really want to have a really true sample of all the horses that are available for sale at that sale. It becomes impossible at Keeneland September, where you have 400 coming at you a day. But here, this was just a great sale to work, because I literally think I saw every horse. And if I didn't, woe is me. And there's probably the one I didn't see is probably a graded winner. I just know it.
Right, right.
So I'm driven by that. And so, you just have to have the correct group to start with. If you don't have the right horses in there. And then the other thing, you talk about the price. What really affects the price for me is the future value of the horse. So, but I'm just looking at the horse as an animal and as a racehorse and as an athlete. So it might not, it might be buy truck out of West, but it was fast, buy truck out of West. And that's what you need.
So the yearling sales, so you have a weanling sale.
Yes,
right?
That's the same thing. Boy, that's,
Okay, so you have the weanling sale, which is for the second graders.
yes.
Then you have the yearling sale, and then you have the 2-year-old
Yes.
2-year-old sale.
The 2-year-olds, it gets easier for me because my partner, we do high-speed film analysis. So he studies the horse's way of going at great detail, and he has. You have to have him talk to you about it.
He has. I mean, he sent me, film, okay,
Yes,
of
exactly.
horses in slow motion, and
Yes.
explained to me the length of stride.
Yes.
And I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the length of stride is not the most important factor. There are people who think that, and that's good, and
Right.
I understand why. But it's important how it all happens, and it's the same way with a horse. Even as a yearling, it's important you have the whole package. You need something that can pull it off mentally. That can.
So I just, from a buyer's perspective, because I go to, as you know, I've attempted the Timonium sale in Maryland a few times. Just tell me, what I did was I gave you my short list, which was based on pedigree analysis, right? And then you did your work. We kind of narrowed it down. And the last sale, we came to about 7 horses, and 5 didn't vet out at all well. So why wouldn't people, they know if you're interested, you're going to get a vet report. And some vet reports you can look away, like if a chip, it needs to be removed, right?
Well, you have to realize you might have a chip, and it might discount the horse. There's a level of risk there. It depends on the client. If the client understands that you could just go in, and there's, especially on P1 chips, which is a chip in the front of the ankle. At least at New Bolton Center, they do a standing procedure. It's like pulling a tooth or something. It's amazing, and so the horse has very little downtime. a lot of it is just explaining to people what really will affect them, and that's a veterinarian's job. And as a trainer, I've had a lot of experience with that. There were horses that had, I mean, I always said I stood in the winner's circle with a lot of P1 chips and a lot of upper joint knee chips. I mean, they were like my best friends.
Right. So the sales 2023, right, compared to you going to the sales 10 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. It's had to change a lot. Like, so when I this last Timonium sale, I went for a Vino Rosso, remember?
Yes.
And I said, I'm going to go to $180,000. I love this horse.
Yes.
You love the horse. Jeff loved the horse. Now, for me, I'm acting alone. I have
Yes.
no partners.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a ton of money for me.
Oh, it's a ton of money for anybody.
But I love this horse.
Uh-huh.
The modern day sale,
Yes.
me being, a lone ranger, just a common, not a lot of big bucks, a high, risking a lot of money, taking a shot on something that just measured up with all of us. I was chasing with a beer can champagne glasses. And what I mean by that is, what chance did I have, the Wizard, with $180,000 against the two people I was bidding against, Mike Rapoli and West Point?
Wow.
Okay, so is that, tell the viewers how the game, from your perspective, has changed from, say, 5 to 10 years ago when you started, right, to today, and how people buy horses now.
Well, first of all, the agents and such that are out there, they're far more savvy and they do a better job, I think, than years ago. I think that really, and they work a lot harder. The bigger trainers, too, hire agents now because they're aware that they can't go to a sale and do all the work. If they try to see all the horses, they spend their whole time at the sale and not training horses. So I think the better trainers like just walk in and be handed the list that and I think that's a much better way to do it. I think there are partnerships now that come in where, they're before of you with 100 and 200,000 a piece. All of a sudden, you're in a different time zone. And so on and so forth.
So the small guy, the single guy, is up against it in a way, against the conglomerates, right?
No, he's not. He's got us. The small guy has us. I mean, I mean that in a nice way. I mean, I love working for the big guys too, but for the horse. But I mean, I am renowned for. But I remember when we were working for certain, I would bring them a horse that would cost $30,000.
Right.
That happened once, and the one horse ran out $380,000, and he bought it. He said, okay, he just bought it.
Well, that is a specialty of yours, yes. Finding the horse for the guy like me. It's
Yep.
just I wanted that Vino Rosso, and that I was,
I think you should have just bought yourself a bottle of red wine, okay?
Now, some of that come to mind, the top, name 5 horses that you bought that people might recognize that turned out to be really great horses.
Well, I think we had a lot of luck. I mean, the ones that I remember are the ones that kind of surprised a little, but we were able to get because the owners had a lot of faith in us. And one was George Strawbridge. We bought Forever Together for it. And
the great turf horse for Augustin, right?
For Augustin Stables.
Forever. Wow, that
Forever
horse
Together.
was amazing.
She was a tough-minded thing, and thank God for Jonathan Shepard and Carrie Breon, I believe, rode her. And she's a fabulous mare, but she had her will of her own. And but Jeff had found her, and she was a little bit small. She towed in. She wasn't perfect, but she was, she could run.
What did you buy her for?
I think we bought her for $200,000 because the only other guy on the whole grounds of OBS that saw her was a guy named J.B. McCathan, and J.B. bought for Baffert at the time, and he didn't think she'd be very expensive because she was by Belong to Me, and Belong to Me was 8 days older than Dirt then, and so he didn't ask for much money, and he came up to me after the bidding stopped, and he said, "Geez, I came to a gunfight with a knife."
Yeah.
So
You know, just something that just came to mind. What is your feeling about when at this Saratoga yearling sale, Baffert, I think Zadon, I don't know who the owner was, Zadon Baffert, the guy paid $4 million for, the dam was Beholder.
yes,
Okay.
beautiful horse.
Now at $4 million, like if you have unlimited money, obviously $4 million doesn't matter, okay? But is the horse, if you had a client, would you have bid to $4 million, like for that particular horse?
If you hired me and told me to buy you that horse, I would do whatever you told me to do. However, I would, for someone who enjoys horse racing and who is not as overly concerned with future breeding value and things like that, I would counsel you instead to buy, what would that be? I would, a lot of $200,000 horses.
Right.
Because your chances go up dramatically.
If that horse wins a race, right? Is the horse is worth in the breeding shed,
In the
right?
breeding shed, yeah,
is
it's-
worth
it's-
a lot,
yeah,
right?
it's worth a lot.
If it ever won a grade
It's a
one,
beautiful horse, and I do think at a certain point, and I understand why they do it, they just want to go in there and they try to squash everybody. It's fun.
Right,
That's
right.
why they get in their businesses. They're successful, and I will say I don't think there's a better trainer than Bob Baffert. I mean, I know that people, but he shows up with a horse fit and ready to run first time out, and I think that fit part is really hard for a lot of people to understand.
and all of them show speed
All
or
of them
tactical
show
speed.
He has his agent is a fellow named Donato Lanni, who does a tremendous job. In fact, we were laughing last night because the Hillendale people, we would be studying films and things at the sale grounds and I'd be looking over them all, and it would be 8 o'clock at night, and I'd look over and there's Lanni and
Right.
Rita, and they were working hard too. So I just think there are a lot of smart people out there, and I think if you have the money in it and you can afford the loss, because there's a lot of risk inherent in a $4 million horse, I think that's fine. I like it better where the risk is spread a little bit, and I think we can, with our technology, we're able to reduce the level of risk a bit, because the major injury component I felt as a trainer was when a horse gets exhausted is when he can take a bad step. And so I do think that, if you can afford, that you just have to have them fit enough.
Right. I want to end the interview with something that is, for the viewers, going to be the most interesting. American Pharoah, you had a major part in Zayat actually keeping that horse. Explain to the viewers, because American Pharoah was an unbelievable horse.
He was.
And just explain what your role was for Zayat and American Pharoah.
And Mr. Zayat had an incredible breeding program. He bred a lot of very nice horses. That horse was by Pioneer of the Nile, and Pioneer of the Nile had been second in the Kentucky Derby, and we had a broodmare that we quite liked, and so we bred our mare to Pioneer of the Nile, and he was nice enough. It was a free breeding, which was really nice of him, and so we got this gorgeous colt. I mean, I'm talking about our colt now. Gorgeous. He was correct. He had a great mind. He did everything. And then, you look through, and before American Pharoah got to Fazzy Tipton up here, he had nicked himself on the walker. So he had a little nick on his ankle. And despite all the efforts, you can't really give them a lot of drugs. And it was just he had cellulitis, so it had gotten a little big, like he had bruised it. There's nothing wrong with him. And everybody was hitting him hard for that. And he also was a big, kind horse, and he wasn't the kind of horse that came out prancing. He walked out there and said, okay, now what do you want? And so we were talking about it, and I said, gee, he asked me what I thought of him. I said, geez, he's a beautiful horse. I have to tell you, sir, if my Pioneer of the Nile looked like your Pioneer of the Nile, I'd sell my house, which is a lot less than his, and it was a humble thing, and not my horse. And it got abused by Joe Drape, and poor Mr. Zayat was horrified. But that was what I meant. It was just such a special horse, and you could tell he was special.
Did he go through the ring? Did people?
Yes, and David Ingordo was the shill bidder who bought him back for him.
Bought him back for
$300,000, I think.
Bought him back to Zayat.
Yes, and so he went in as an RNA, but he was a very, very special horse.
And it's funny, when he got into Bob Baffert's barn, and I called Bob and I said, this was that 3-year-old year preparing for the Derby. He had 2 horses that year that I couldn't separate on paper. It was American Pharoah and Dortmund.
Oh yeah, Dortmund. We were the underbidders on Dortmund. That was a Lanny. I thought the horse was going to sell for a lot of money in Timonium. I see that these kind of things get me upset, and
I knew it. That's why I said. That's why I had it.
Such a wonderful horse, and he went for like $120,000, and I was like, "What? Where was I? What was I?" I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Well, that's what I paid." I'm like, "Jeez," and I was so upset.
And
about
a physical specimen.
Oh, he was a handsome, beautiful horse.
You know,
beautiful.
so I couldn't separate the 2 horses. It was hard, and I asked Baffert, you know, which one should I pick for the Derby? And he says to me, "Wizard, I can live 1,000 lives. I will never have a horse like American Pharoah."
Oh wow!
And little
That's
do
a
we,
great. Oh wow!
and little do we know, did we know at that time, that a couple years later he has Justify.
Yes, he did.
and I think that if I asked him, and I might have asked him, if Justify and American Pharoah raced together, who was the better horse?
I don't know that, but I'll tell you what I liked about the management, and this goes to Mr. Zayat. They kept running American Pharoah through his 3-year-old year. That was the thing.
Yeah, and I got him lost. I got him beat here at Saratoga.
Well,
do you know
yes,
that?
I know. Well, it's the graveyard of champions.
No. I told him to come up here. He didn't want to come for the Travers Baffert. Zayat wanted to.
Yeah.
I said, "Come up here." Nobody at Naira knew. Right, I even released the information to my good friend Tom Amello, my co-host, a couple days to print up hundreds of sheets, because I knew he was coming.
Yes.
Little did I know that Friday before the Travers, there was over 10,000 people watching him do his morning gallop.
Yes.
And American Pharoah thought it was a race and ran off.
Yes.
And then come the Travers, I'm sitting in the press box watching him load into the gate, and he's washed out.
Yes.
And I'm saying, oh my God, what'd I do? Baffert didn't want to come. I told him, come, speed favoring track. He's going to win. What happened? I got him beat.
Well, it's the graveyard of champions. We know that. But
not lately. No, it's like until last
yes.
week it was 40% favorite.
Wow.
So it's
there
not
you go.
the graveyard of champions is sort of not in play right now.
But I mean, Mr. I kept racing him, and he won big races. He won the the Breeders' Cup Classic. I mean, that was just. To keep the horse and show what he showed was, Justify is an incredible horse, but American Pharoah was durable. And the one thing I've learned from being a trainer and being a bloodstock agent is I am only as good as the number of times they can walk that horse up there.
Right, exactly.
And
well, I really appreciate you coming on. I just want to say for anybody, and I mean this honestly, because I have history with EQB, with you and Jeff Seder. If you're interested in buying a horse at any sale, whether it's a weanling, a yearling, a 2-year-old, you just contact EQB and Patti Miller, because nobody works harder, nobody has their integrity, and very few can match their success. And that's a tremendous combination, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. And next segment will be the Gallop Out, brought to you by WizardRacingSports.com. Thank you. Visit WizardRacingSports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit wizardracinsports.com and purchase now.
Welcome back to Get Tied On. We would like to let you know that we are filming today because it's raining in Saratoga.
What else?
What else? We are filming today from the porch at the Springwater Bed and Breakfast here in Saratoga Springs. They are located on George Street here in Saratoga. They're 2 blocks off Union Ave, 3 blocks from the track. If you're looking for a place to stay in Saratoga, we know the DiCarlo family very well, and they do it as well as anybody.
It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful. And certainly we're brought to you by wizardracinsports.com. All right, Michael, let's talk horse safety, New York Thunder, HISA, and Tapeta, or synthetic.
Well, first of all, obviously the HISA is making its impact. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Everyone's talked about that. But, I also feel that Saratoga, this meet, track safety has been questionable. On the turf course, we've had more deaths than we ever had. The dirt course, we've seen, how many deaths so far during racing? 8?
Something to that
Yeah,
effect,
there's been deaths in the morning. I was right in the grandstand, Travers Day, looked on my phone at the radar because you could see that it was getting cooler, it was getting cloudy. You could see the rain was coming. I went to the front of the track, wait to see them put a seal down to protect before the rain came.
Right.
They never put the seal down until after the rain came for 10 or 15 minutes.
So there's a question. The question you're asking is, what, if any, anticipation, preparation went into the decision making?
Yeah, the seal was put down. It was over water, standing water. Then I had my binoculars on the inside part of the track and I saw puddles. And then they ran the race. Now, no one really knows if it was the track, the horse just took a bad step, whatever. And I know nothing about any of this, about track maintenance, okay? But what was going through my mind was, don't seal the track. It's too late. Let it rain, right? Delay maybe 20, 30 minutes after, because it was going to stop. It stopped. It became beautiful. When rain occurs during a Major League Baseball game, they put out the tarp. There's a delay. Sometimes the delay is over an hour. Yeah. There wasn't going to be an hour, maybe at 30 minutes. Let it rain, then bring out the trucks to harrow the track. The track is going to be good, right? Good. They ran the Travers over a harrowed, good track. So, I don't understand what went into the decision making of right. And I would like, I would like to know because I'd like to learn.
Well, that's HISA's job in the long run.
I think that HISA's, you talk about integrity of the game. Well, integrity means more than just the drugs in racing.
Yeah, we've talked that.
And so I don't know what, the turf course, they've been, a friend of mine, we talked about it, ran a horse, broke down, stepped in a hole 6 inches deep. The horse is pulled up. On Saturday, there was another death on the gallop out, right?
No bone.
So I don't understand, and I don't know. Well, the track maintenance guy is supposed to be, he is knowledgeable, he's great.
Of course he is.
But what went wrong?
Well, I have no idea about wrong, right, or indifferent. What I do know, and I believe this, water always wins, and this meet has been inundated like no other meat that you or I have been familiar with in many, many, many years. And so, how much water can a turf course take? How much water can a track take in a dirt track take in such and such amount of time? And what are the strategies or the policies or the practices that are in place to do? You and I don't know, and I'm not going to criticize until there's someone who explains what they're normally doing.
These are 1,000-pound animals
Right.
that are tearing up the turf course. No fault of them. They're just
Right.
striding out. So they're digging up the turf
Yeah.
course. So there's tons of divots. They can move the rails out to Kingdom Come. It doesn't matter. There's
Right.
going to be so many divots.
Right.
How do you catch on a turf course every hole that is on the track?
I can honestly say I don't remember seeing the divot guys this year.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't mean that. I don't remember.
So we come to the idea of adding a synthetic track.
Correct.
Now, I am not really against change. I think Gulfstream, they have the dirt course,
Right.
they have the turf course, and they have a synthetic course.
Yeah.
The whole idea, I don't buy that it's safer than a dirt course. A good dirt course is safe, okay? I don't believe, unless you show me clear evidence, that Mark Cassie had an article.
Right, a good article.
But he's got 200 synthetic horse. He's got a ton of them at Woodbine. So I don't know if the synthetic track is safer for horses or not. I don't know. I really can't answer that. What I do know is we probably would have bigger field sizes if races are switched from the turf course to a synthetic.
Yeah.
We see that at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah.
So the idea is to protect field size, which will enable more handle, which will make for better betting situations.
And safer horses, hopefully.
Right. And now what's happened with all these off the turf races, you also have all those scratches. You have main track horses that are scratching. Then you have a vet scratch. You have on a card, there's so many vet scratches. So you're going to have races boiling down to 3. We've seen a 2-horse field. We've seen 3 and 4-horse fields. We have to do something to protect the integrity of the game from a health standpoint and from a betting standpoint and
Yeah.
field size.
I want to say one last thing on synthetic. We're America, and we can't make a determination that this is the absolute one right decision or one right product. For example, there's wax, there's tapeta, there's all sorts of, they used to use rubber, and right, and so there's. It seems that Michael Dickinson's tapeta is above anything we've ever used before. And so I'm curious as to how the industry, if it's going to move in the direction of synthetic, is going to sort through that. I mean, Woodbine has been tapeta for a long, long time.
And they have competitive full fields.
And they have competitive full field.
Will horse players adjust? I mean, we adjust. So I think that something definitely has to be done. Now, I just also want to say that when this show airs, it's actually our last full show from Saratoga.
Right.
And we have a lot of interviews in the can coming
Yes.
up. We have
Richard Migliore.
Well, that's a 2-parter. That's fantastic.
Yep.
We're going to have, Eddie Barker.
Yep.
We have our 2-part Tony the Pony today, and,
Right.
and Clickety Click.
Clickety Click, Dave Harmon.
And we are, I love doing the show. I love doing it with you. I love the
Thank you.
people that we had on.
Yep.
I think we were able to provide you with people from all aspects of the game that wouldn't normally show up on an interview, because the game is made up of a lot of components, a lot of characters, and I think we did our best job the best we could to present those characters to you, those people.
And we want to keep doing it.
We do, and we will. We're going to we have some in the can for, the next few weeks, but we're going to do a Breeders' Cup show. You're
Okay.
going to come to the Wizard's Lair.
That's right.
To do that, and we will figure out a way to continue this. We enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you for, it was an honor to
I thought
do
we
it.
have one more. I thought we have one more show to do.
Oh, yeah, we have. I forgot. We actually
one more
have.
show. Yeah, we have one more show.
And what will that show be?
Well, the interviewer will interview the interviewee.
We're going to interview each other.
We're going to interview each other.
Because I know Tom has a very interesting life. My life, as the mental
mentalist?
case, is really what it is. But that will be one more show.
One more show. That's
Well,
right.
thank you.
All right.
And
You say thank you. You
well,
sign
thank
off.
you for everybody for watching this show. I hope you enjoyed it. This show has been brought to you by our only sponsor, my website, wizardracingsports.com. Football is on tap soon.
That's right.
Doc Allen is aboard, ready to go. We're sports bettors. We bet like Paul Matisse. We bet everything, even cockroach races, whatever. If they put it up,
You
we bet.
you handicap
I
it.
handicap the Nathan Hot Dog
Yeah.
Challenge with Joey Chestnut. I do American Got Talent, American Idol. We're all in. We love to play.
Thank you for staying tight on. Be well.